What do I mean by energy is bliss? We have to step back a little bit to understand why I'm using this expression. First of all, as human beings, we are moved by pleasure. We can see that very easily, that everything that we do is aimed to satisfy some kind of desire because we think we're going to have pleasure out of it. Even when we go to the restaurant, we eat something that we like. We don't order something we don't like. In the same way, we do many things in life. We are driven by pleasure, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mostly is the attachment to pleasure that might generate some suffering as a consequence when we don't have it. But mainly, it's just the way life works in one way. Why I say that energy is bliss? It's connected to the fact that when we reach an high level, even before, in the Nei Gong practice, the sensations in the body are very pleasurable. The body becomes pleasant because in the beginning, the body starts to work properly. So if we have some pain, maybe when we start the path, after a little bit that we practice, we might realize that the body is more open. And this has some kind of influence, positive influence on the mind and in our emotions, because, if we don't have anything bothering us, we can have better emotional state and mental state. So from a very simplistic, let's say, from the beginning, from a simple point of view, we can say that having a pleasant body is going to possibly generate some pleasant emotion and pleasant thinking if we don't count all the other aspects of life in it, but just by starting from the way we feel ourselves. You can see also when we do activities, actually you can see this concept of energy that I'm going to explain in a different form, a little bit more complete and let's say more esoteric or more, not really esoteric, I don't like this word, more, let's say, connected to some kind of spiritual approach to the practice, the way that it is going to be developed later on. But let's see even now. When we have energy, so that everything is working well, we feel different during the day. When we are depressed, we have very low energy, and actually those emotions are part of our daily life. So vitality is something that really influences the way we feel, and that is due to the amount of energy that we have inside. It's like a light bulb. The more it shines, the better it's going to accomplish its work in life, the more it's going to be active and vibrant in everything that it does. And let's say that this is going to be the first stage where we start to practice Nei Qigong or Nei Gong, because the goal in the beginning is going to be to improve our body, because otherwise there's no possibility of actually reaching a high level of energy, because it's very demanding for the body in terms of the structure. That's why I also stretch over the importance of not just looking for the vital energy, but also creating a good container, a good structure that is going to be able to hold later on certain internal pressure that otherwise it's actually no good if we are not in good shape. So when we start to practice in the beginning, we experience this kind of enhancement, let's say, of our well-being on a very simple level. And we practice, I don't know if you sign up for the free exercises on my website, we practice some simple stuff such as the alignment, freeing the body from the tension and everything in a specific way. And we have a certain result, which could be impacting our mind also, because we have to remember that the human being cannot be divided into pieces. Mental, emotional, and physical state are all interconnected. So when we relax some parts of the body, also we are releasing the tension from other aspects. Also because we have to understand that these blockages in terms of body, physical blockages, they also interrupt the natural flow of the energy in the body, which impacts the other two elements as I described. So we cannot divide the human being into pieces when we start to work physically, actually, because this is what we know in the beginning. We're going to have a certain impact in the way we feel. But when we do the alignment, actually, as an advanced practitioner, that's why sometimes I say that the real fun begins when we finish the path. It's not true. But when we finish the path, we do the alignment as advanced practitioner. We don't experience the looseness that we experience in the beginning when we start out, because when we start to practice this discipline, our body is very stiff most of the time. So by doing this exercise, we experience the opposite, looseness. But when we have cultivated vital energy to a certain degree, high degree, when the body relaxes, actually, vital energy expands. There is flow and there is an internal pressure building up. So this is what happens to an advanced practitioner. The exercise, the basic exercise is the same, overlooked sometimes, but the two practitioners will have a different experience according to where we are. It's not completely true that the real fun begins when we finish the old program, but let's say that when we finish the old program, we have worked our body and ourselves to a certain degree, so our experiences will be to a certain degree as well. And this somehow connects with the title of this talk that I'm giving, this chapter, this video that I'm recording, connected to the fact that if in the beginning having a pleasant body and allowing the energy to flow in the body is going to generate certain kind of emotions, more pleasant, which with time, if we practice actually honestly, we are really driven by an honest growth, not really this achievement of superpowers or mystical capabilities, but more like from a genuine point of view of saying, I want to improve myself. I want to practice this discipline to do that. Well, if we have all these criteria in place, then something else is going to happen when we move forward in our practice. Somehow it's related to the Ling Qi practice, which I'm going to talk later on in another chapter, in another video possibly. But the Ling Qi practice is very important because through the Ling Qi practice we experience subtle aspect of the vital energy. As I said, I'm going to describe it later, which we call spiritual. Okay, so it's like another aspect of life. Let's put it in this way. Spiritual is not something outside of life. It's just let's say a more subtle dimension, yet practical and down to earth. It doesn't have to be. It's not an imagination. It's not thinking. Well, when we progress in the path, we have cultivated energy to a certain degree, so we experience all the energy in its different aspects, because energy is one, it just manifests itself in different forms, more, let's say, dense form, less dense form, even less denser form. Sometimes I use this analogy of the water connected also to the three Dantians, which is where this kind of different states manifest, they happen. I talk about the lower dantian located below the navel inside the body, where we store actually our vital energy, and where we find dense energy there usually, and which is responsible for the well-being of ourselves. We take it this energy from food, the air we breathe, and all the lifestyle we have, the rest we have during our day. But then also we have the middle dantian, which is at the level of the sternum inside the body, where this energy is found in a different form. It's moving more, it's less dense, it's more active, let's say. These particles, if we have to describe it as matter, which is difficult to put it in this way, but probably the closest analogy, the particles composing this energy, they are moving more. And then we find the Shan Dantian, or third eye, or higher Dantian, located here and between the eyebrows inside the brain, in the very center, where we find even more activity. So the particles are moving even more. And somehow this analogy that works very well to describe the different states of the vital energy is this. We have one big thing, vital energy, and let's say that this vital energy is similar to water. Water can be found in a very dense state, down here in the lower dantian, let's say, so under the form of ice. Water can also be liquid if the particles are moving more, similar to the vital energy we find in the middle dantian. Water can be found as a steam, where particles are moving even more, where the one we find actually in the higher dantian. And also when particles move a lot, there is a different experience also of warm, of heat, of ice, of cold if they move less. But don't think too much about this. Please don't take my word and try to analyze the vital energy in this way, because it's very wrong. These are just temporary states. They don't define one thing in one specific way. But this is just a good analogy that works to describe the three different states of the vital energy in the same way that we could describe water. So when, as advanced practitioner, as genuine people, but even if we're not advanced, but we're really moving in the path in the right way, we also start to experience more subtle aspect of the vital energy connected to the Ling Qi, let's say, the spiritual energy, which is more connected to the higher Dantian. I will talk about this later on and in more details for what it is possible to share, of course, because it is an experience that we have to live firsthand. Otherwise, it's just empty word or me trying to impress, which is not my goal, you with some kind of technical knowledge. So sometimes people move into this Nei Gong practices only by focusing on the lower Dantian, lower Dantian, lower Dantian, build the Dantian, and because some teachers present it in this way, the goal is to emit Qi, which is a very dense form of vital energy. But this is very little connected actually to the development of the human being in its totality, in my opinion, and also in a more healthy and noble way. When we start to experience the different states of the energy, which I said energy is one, but manifest under different forms, and the goal is actually to experience all these different states so we can use it for our practice, for our growth. The more energy we start to have inside ourselves, as I said in the beginning, maybe the body is going to be more present, our emotions more present, our mind more present, but the more we are able to take and enter in contact with the subtle energy, the more we start to experience bliss. And this is something that cannot really be described too much, unfortunately. But as I said, I'm going to try to explain it later on, maybe in the next video, or where I talk about Ling Qi. This bliss comes from a sense of lack of boundary between you and life. And this is not something temporary, something that belongs just to a short moment of our day. We have to understand that it's like in the beginning, from an unpleasant state, let's say, body not working, we go into a present state. When we have even more energy, after we have very good emotions that actually will take over the bad emotions that usually obsessive thinking that we have usually during the day. But when we go even higher, then it comes another state, another experience, more the state, because I don't want to picture in your mind this kind of concept of steps, but another experience of life which is more connected to bliss. And as I said, I'm going to try to explain later on what it is related to. It's actually the activation of the third eye, the Dantian, which is no concept. When we have this kind of connection, there are certain particular experiences that we do. But for now, what I want to leave you with is that the more energy we have, the better we feel, the more actually our life might take another completely different operating system, where our emotion will become so refined and pure, so to speak, that this sense of being one with something, being one, which is the most actually accurate word, will generate a completely different internal environment in terms of the way we feel, the way we act, because try to imagine a human being who is immersed into a beautiful state. It's just another level of humanity, which unfortunately we don't see, because they try to push us down with all the fears and all the things of that actually prevent us from reaching this state, because all those things are based on a very egocentric identity, which doesn't really exist at the end of the day, but we find out by practicing. The survival mode, which is actually what is stopping us from opening up and relaxing completely, and by doing the right work, actually living vital energy in its fullest possibility, not just in the way that some people maybe try to cultivate the Nei Gong practices only by focusing on the dance aspect, which at the end of the day is not going to have a big impact in the way we feel. Actually, we might even become more miserable rather than more blissful. So I hope that this video made sense for you, and that you could understand the beauty of the kind of work that we are doing with this Nei Qigong or Nei Gong practices. It's actually taking the human being to a more complete expression, a more complete connection with life. It's not just an intellectual projection, it's not just a physical well-being, it's something that grows from inside, and it takes us to a new stage of our life.